when I go about my life and I find things that make my life simpler and easier, I tend to like gravitate very strongly towards those things. Things that give me the stims, like typing and other things like that. And today I'm gonna like kind of I want to dispel some of the fears of switching over to tiling. This is going to be for new users. If you're, 20 years in the Linux game, probably, well, I mean, if you want to watch it, feel free to watch it, but we probably don't need to watch this. This is going to be a little bit of me talking about how I got into using them and like how I feel about it. I'm going to give you some suggestions. We're going to look at some config files and I'm going to just kind of show you like this stuff isn't anything to be afraid of, dude. And at the end of the day, if you're smart about how you store your data, like I don't keep anything that I want to save or anything real on my computer. Like that's all going to external storage. And realistically, that's the safer way to go about it because you don't know what's going to happen. Even if you're on a mainstream operating system like Mac OS or Windows, there could be some sort of freak show thing that happens, and then you're either locked out of everything or, maybe you even lost everything. You never know. And that's probably going to be my first. We're going to go into some general computing things first, and then I'll get into the configs and all that. But so like first of all, you want to get as a computer user, it doesn't matter whether you're a coder or you're just some granny looking at pictures of her grandkids on Facebook. Like you want to make sure that you have all of your data backed up. You want to have it on an external something. Not only will it allow you to, access it from other devices and like copy it over for people and this and that, and you always have this data safe. You're going to have a lot better time if you're switching around stuff and you're using Linux. It's going to be far simpler. Like me, I don't got to really worry about losing anything. The worst I'm going to lose is a config that, I'll probably just rewrite or I have saved on my GitHub or, whatever. Like, or I have that backed up on external because I do have configs backed up on external. So that's a very important part to all this. I think it's going to be a lot safer and it's going to help you out in the long run, no matter what you're doing to have external storage. Now, on to the second thing. This is going to be geared more towards the Linux and the tiling window managers. When the first time I tried a tiling window manager, I did it on, because I had bought a couple of, used ThinkPads like every Linux nerd does. And I was doing installs, I was trying all sorts of stuff on them. And that's really like another thing is having a second machine, like just picking up something cheap. It doesn't have to be like you could literally spend less than $100 on it. You can get like an 8 gig RAM machine, throw on Arch Linux and a tiling window manager, and that shit's gonna work mint. You know what I mean? It's gonna be good. Because all this stuff is so lightweight, you're not taking up resources. You don't need as much, power. So having the second machine is always going to be great, and there's like a lot of options. I can say a few right now, like single board computers, stuff like Raspberry Pis. Those are always fun to start out and learn this stuff on. They have these little micro PCs that these stupid offices buy for whatever reason, and that you can usually find them like, they have like a 500 gig SSD in it and maybe like 16 gigs of RAM or whatever, and that is a perfect scenario for messing around on some Linux and some whatever. So, and those you can find for cheap. I found a couple of HP ones for probably around 60, $70, right? Not it's not that steep. And if you're going to get into this, it's not bad to invest in a skill. Cuz even if you're not going to be a coder or anything like that, knowing your way around this stuff is it's golden because then you don't have to pay some Reddit nerd at Geek Squad or whatever to fix your stuff. I haven't never once in my life paid a single person to touch a machine for me. You know what I mean? I've always gone out of my way. Ever since the internet was around, you just go online and read some manuals and figure some stuff out, ask people questions. So that's like another thing, like just having this sort of do-it-yourself mentality about the situation is going to be great. Now, when it comes into the whole tiling, it's going to be very daunting at first because, first of all, you don't know all the keybinds. You're not going to have them all memorized, and you're going to stumble over that for a good period of time. But if you're doing this on a crappy laptop, at least get a mechanical keyboard you can hook up to it. Because part of what makes, like, the tiling really cool and all that is like just the tactileness of being able to type something and like, oh, I'm gonna float this and I'm gonna get my fetch up and all this sort of stuff. Having the feedback from the keyboard makes it so much better, dude. It makes it so much better. I have a couple suggestions we'll go with. If we're going cheap, I'll show you the two cheapo boards that I have. So I have this one in a different color. It's not this green, but it's more like a seafoam green color. And I use this, well, it's not a 65%, it's a 75%, but I use this same basic keyboard. I would probably go with the R75 instead of the 65, so you have the better keys. Actually, if I show you the other one, this is what I'm talking about. I personally am a big fan of the 75%. This is the keyboard I'm using right now on this computer. I swapped out the keycaps for different keycaps. It's hot swappable, and what that means, if you don't know, if one of the switches dies, or you want to switch out for a different feel and get a whole different set of switches, you can take them out and put them back in. It's not like bigger brands where they solder the switches to the board, and then if a switch dies, like, there you go, there's your whole keyboard. Oh, you just spent $130 on a Steel Series Apex, you know what I mean? And then your key dies. Yeah, that happened to me. So hot swappable, definitely do it. And like, this is very important. Like, you like really, really, really want that feedback when you're using the tiling, because you're gonna feel so much cooler. And part of using tiling window managers is like feeling cool. You know what I mean? Um, so I took it upon myself. Well, let's find it. Where would it be? I took it upon myself to download a bspwm config, even though I'm not on there. But I'll show you, because it's all kind of the same. I'll show you the bspwm one. We'll show you my i3 one that I'm running right now. I'll talk about how I got to here, what you're looking at. But yeah, let's go nvim /home/danks/downloads. Oops. If I could type, I'm a little tired. Wait, what? That's weird. It did something weird. Here, let's just go into Ranger and look. Downloads. Here we go. bspwm. Let's take a look at this. We'll float it. So the way that these configs work is in succession of the lines is the stuff that's going to automate and turn on when you start up your desktop environment, when you log in, right? So here, as we look, it's labeled as like a bash script. And then, this is saying go to home, hit the config, bspwm, and then auto start. So like, this would be referencing other things. That's a little above the head, so we won't talk about it. So, okay, BSPC monitor. What this is like your desktops. So this person who made this has their terminal on the first desktop, their web app or, browser on the second, probably like VS Code or whatever on the third, miscellaneous edit. But normally this would be like 1 through 9 or 1 through 10 or 1 through 10 in Roman numerals. It's basically all the same in most configs you're going to see for most tilers. They kind of have this section where they're dedicating, declaring all the desktops. Now, if you go down a little bit, we got right here, this is going to be border width. Oh, well, this guy's going 0 border width. How can you tell what windows are activated, bud? And then he's got his gaps at 10. That's going to be like your gaps in between your tiles. And then the rest of this is kind of like, this is the split ratio on it. BSPM is an auto tiler, so it just kind of automatically does it. This is another thing I should say about tiling window managers. Like, just use an auto tiler at first. Manual tiling, if you have to do it, it's gonna make you not want to use a tiler. It really will. All the times I've used manual tiling, I hate it. So yeah, that's a thing. But yeah, so back to this. There's just more rule configurations for the windows. Like this, it's gonna split on a 52, which I don't understand why they do that. Just split on 50, make it even, but whatever. And then borderless, blah blah blah. And then this is like kind of like these ones right here, what they're doing, right? They say code desktop. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is just opening up stuff on certain desktops. This is kind of pointless. This is like stuff you would put in when you're further down the road. And then another thing that tiling has is you got to declare like what apps that you don't want to tile, because there's going to be certain things you don't want tiling, right? So that's where like floating apps, this sort of thing. So you'll always see the same sort of thing. And we go over it at I3, you'll see it's the same kind of thing. And this one's pretty simple. So yeah, actually let's just go right into the I3 real quick, because it'll be a lot cooler. Because this is the one I'm used to looking at right now. So with I3, it's roughly the same thing. You got this master config with all this stuff commented, like this stuff with the pound sign or whatever, the hashtag, the, what is it, crunch? Is it a crunch? I don't know. Anyway, the bang or whatever. I don't know. I'm just throwing words out there. This means it's commented out. It's not going to do anything. You're really just looking for the stuff that's not. So like right here, this is like, okay, you're going to use this font at this size. You're going to, this right here, it says set smod to mod 4. That just kind of means like when they reference in your key bindings what key, like it's going to be like smod. And it'll say like bind sim, smod, and then the key combination, and then it'll be like whatever you're trying to do. That just means like you could set it to alt, you could set it to the Windows key, you could send it to like, your, whatchamacallit, your right alt key, your right control key, you can set it up what you want, function key or whatever. Typically, I don't touch this because it's always on the Windows key, and that's just what I've gotten used to over the time. Now, a lot of this stuff in here is kind of like pointless, because like this stacking, I don't use this because I use an auto tiling plugin. So I3, I should say this, if you are going to use I3, it does not have auto tiling, but it is very easy to, you go into the AUR, you go on GitHub, you get your auto tile. It's literally called auto tiling. You get that, and then you install it, and then it'll automatically, well, I don't know if it's automatically, I just noticed that it's in the config. I forget where. Anyway, it's somewhere in here there's an option. We're not going super in depth on the configs. I'm just kind of explaining a couple of things that are going on. And actually, with that, let's look at like how they have these keybinds written, because it'll show you a format like bind sim smod J, which means Windows button J, focus left. That means if I have this open and I hold down the Windows button and I start pressing these keys, it'll start navigating, right? Oop, I locked my. Uh-oh. But yeah, it'll start navigating and you'll be good. All right, what else? So with i3, another thing that they do, like, and this is in other tiling window managers. So there's some that come with a taskbar and some that don't. And for the ones that don't, you're going to have to use something like Polybar, Waybar, Lemon Bar, Ew, Tint. There's some options, and each one of those, I'm not going to go into all that. Each one of those is a whole can of worms to open. So I would say this, if you're just getting into this, get somebody else's config. I would say, like, kind of what happened here is this is the default config for Endeavor OS has an i3 version, and I just installed that and I just edited it that. So this is for the most part set up like how they ship it. And I guess that would probably be a recommendation. You do something like that. Because then you can really dig into here and you can mess around and figure out what all this stuff is. There's plenty of videos about stuff. And, and like speaking on bars, dropping some bars real quick, right? So i3 has i3 blocks, which is something you can download and install. And with i3 blocks, if you go to the i3 config folder, which I'm navigating right now, you can do this through a graphical file manager. You go to your home folder, Control H shows hidden, you go into config, and then i3. I'm just using Ranger because it's like more efficient and funner and it looks cooler. Shoot, I did it again, and I don't know all the things to nano by heart, so let's go back. i3 blocks, right? So i3 blocks is kind of what is controlling all the stuff that shows up. Oh my god. You should have just clicked into it the first time. All right. This is showing all the stuff that kind of shows up. And the way that I've done this is I've commented a lot of the stuff out, and then I added all these black spacers so I can have everything in the center. And when you're doing bars, it's a lot of work like that. It's a lot of just redoing this over and over and over and replacing this and doing this. And one of the saving graces of tiling window managers is almost always they will have some sort of keyboard shortcut to restart the actual manager itself. So if I do Windows button Shift and R, it's going to restart i3. Or if I do Windows button Shift and C, it'll reset. I think they both basically restart. I think one, I don't know. You get the point. I'm not an expert. I'm just trying to show you, like, I'm an idiot and I figured this stuff out. Now, if you made it this far in the video and all of this stuff still feels very, like, intimidating and hard, there is an option. There is an option. And personally myself, I think if somebody has a positive experience doing something differently, it's going to provoke a passion in them. You know what I mean? And they're going to want to delve into it more and do it more. So, if you don't want to fuck around with config files and you don't want to do any of the stuff I was talking about, I probably should mention this in the beginning of the video, but get Pop! OS, install Cosmic Desktop with their little auto tiling thing. There's literally an icon on the taskbar that says tiling. You click it and it turns into tiling. You unclick it and it turns off the tiling, right? And from there, you can at least see if you like the workflow of it. Because, when you got a bunch of windows out here like this, it's kind of like, oh, what is this guy even doing? Like, how do I do this? Or, you won't realize, like, taking something like I got this window right here on the bottom left, and I can just go, like, Windows button Shift, and then type a desktop number, and I'll be like, send that right over to the fourth desktop. Now, if I go to desktop 4, 2, 3, 4, it's over there. So it's like learning all these, like, little things like that is what's going to make you fall in love with it. So this is like, it's hard because I want to tell people, like, yo, just download something like bspwm or qtile or i3, something really simple, at least from my perspective, really simple to do it. But at the same time, I know that, like, that's also a hard. So, like, that's why I'm gonna mention this. Like, yo, if you really want to be lazy about it and you just want to get your fingers on the keyboard, definitely go with the Cosmic Desktop on Pop! OS. It will definitely do the trick. But you're gonna have to peel the band-aid off either way. Like, if you're getting into Linux and or high level computing and this and that, you're gonna have to learn configs, dude. I'm sorry. It's just, it's the vegetables on the plate. You gotta eat your vegetables. And the cool thing about a lot of tiling window managers is, they're all kind of based off of little things. Like, what is it? Like, X monad is Haskell, right? So, like, let's say for whatever, bizarre reason you wanted to learn Haskell to do something, maybe using a desktop environment where the configs run off Haskell is a good idea. Or like Python, for instance, right? Which one is it? Qtile, I believe, right? Qtile is the one for Python. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. Like, if you want to learn these things, like Lua's, and I forget which one. So one of them is Lua. That's another thing that's cool. And I'll say this: if you're a normal fucking person, learning a little bit of code is not a bad thing. Like, I'm not gonna expect you to, you know, write me an LLM or some crazy thing. Like, but like just knowing a little bit, being able to script out certain little tasks on your computer, make your life easier, you know. And that's the unfortunate part about mainstream operating systems is they've created this ease of use that kind of ruins people's habits and it kind of makes people stupider. Like if you don't have to do a little setup and you just use the thing right out the box, like what are you really learning? And then you start to expect everything to be like that, and that's probably not a good way. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling about tiling window managers. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments. Please, like, subscribe, follow, post me on Discord, post me on Twitter, make fun of me. Do whatever you need to do. Just install them tiling window managers, get that working. If there's plenty of distros out there that offer like a pre-configured situation, Archcraft, EndeavorOS has i3 pre-configured. A lot of these things do. Arco. Just look around. Look at the ones I said, like bspwm, i3, Qtile, and then get somebody's dot files, get the config, install it, and then use it. Or if you're too lazy to do all that, get Pop OS, do Cosmic Desktop. All right. Enough repeating myself over and over like a weird person. I'm just gonna go die now. I'll check you guys later.